UFC 284. What an event. UFC in Perth at the weekend, headlined by Alexander Volkanovski fighting Islam Makhachev. Incredible event. I mean, it's just like that, isn't it? 1 second, you're looking forward to an event. The next second, boom, it's in the past and you're depressed because there's no... Well, it's not so bad being a UFC fan. I'm also an NFL fan. Just had the Super Bowl last night. Absolutely fantastic. It was one of the best Super Bowl games in recent memory. It really was. Congratulations, Kansas City Chiefs, on getting it done. Very glad that the Chiefs managed to get another one done with Andy Reid. I'm not sure if Andy Reid is going to be going again next season. I'll be interested to see. I'm sure there'll be an official announcement in due course. Anyway, I'm going to be breaking down... I'm not going to be breaking down the Super Bowl yet, but I'm probably going to do one later. There's a lot to unpack in that, but there's a lot to unpack in UFC 284. So I'm going to be doing that, taking a look at some of the standout performances, some of the people that jumped off the page for me that might be worth keeping an eye on in the future, and also looking at little bits of MMA news. A couple of fights have been announced, including, obviously, one Mr. Conor McGregor should be fighting one Mr. Michael Chandler. And also, it looks like one of the fighters who headlined the main event in UFC 284 has already got another opponent lined up. So, I'm going to be going through all of that and more. So, UFC 284 was an absolutely fantastic event. If you look at all of my picks throughout the entire card, I got 7 out of 12, which isn't, just over half. So that's way better than my normal average. And one of those was a draw as well, let's be fair. That one was going the way that it should have gone. And then, the one guy was just too tough. I'll go into that. So, basically, Jamie Mullarkey, and he surprised me out there, honestly, with a great win over a very, very young guy. What was his name? Francisco Prado, yeah. Because I thought Prado was coming in for the kill, because he was an absolute savage. He was unbeaten, 11-0, Argentine kid. He looked really good, really powerful, some nice spinning kicks. So obviously Prado is going to be one to keep an eye on in the future, but Jamie Mullarkey just did a great job at being technical, long, and just being having a good technical game plan, sticking to it, and just being good. So hats off to you, Jamie Mullarkey, on just being good, being a very good technical all-round fighter, getting the job done. Brilliant. Jimmy Crute, the heart on that kid. Good Lord. Because Menefield basically had him out on his feet 3 or 4 times in that fight. There was a second that Goddard was about to he was about to say, this is enough, because he was getting battered. And then he managed to stall and just get himself back into the fight. Menefield stopped a takedown by using the fence. Goddard gave an immediate point deduction, which then led to a majority draw. They're going to have to run that one back, not least because it could have been fight of the night, actually. It was so back and forth. It was just a brilliant stylistic matchup, and I would really enjoy seeing that again. But you can't have that ending on a draw, can you? And I think the fans would want to see it. I think you could probably put it higher up on the card next time, because it certainly got my attention. And Jack Della Maddalena was absolutely unreal. I did pick him. I did say that he would get the finish, I thought, because of the body shots. He's just got such good hands. But to be able to do what he did to somebody as good as Randy Brown is so impressive. He just sparked him out, and it was just ridiculous. He's got some serious power. I call him JDM for short. So JDM, next fight for him, I think, has to be Dan Ige. I think Dan Ige's looking for a fight. Dan Ige's also got that knockout power as well. They call him 50k for a reason, because he gets those 50k bonuses. But yeah, JDM versus 50k, make that happen. That is a fight that has fireworks written all over it. It would be fight of the night for sure. Turns out Justin Taffer, look, I take back all the things I said, as jokingly, of course, that Yeah, it's like if you ordered Tai Tuivasa-off Wish. But you know what? In his own right, I think Justin Taffer is just a very scary, very bad man in that heavyweight division. Because if he catches you, he's kind of like Mark Hunt in a lot of ways. Like, he might not win every fight, but god damn, if he catches you, you are in serious trouble. He just smashed Porter, just like with a lovely back step over the top, bang. And Porter was done for. Fantastic performance. Well done to Taffer. Yair Rodriguez, I've got to be honest, still think he's a bit of a weird guy. Stand by that comment. But you know what? He really surprised me. He's really upped his game lately. His last few fights, he's looked really good. For me, I thought stylistically, Josh Emmett might be an issue for him because of the wrestling grinding pace, which we did see him struggle against with Frankie Edgar. But it turns out, you know what? He used the Frankie Edgar as a learning experience, as every good fighter should learn from their losses. And Yair has done exactly that. I may not like him like as a fighter. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I do respect what he does in there, and it's enjoyable to watch because some of those body kicks and everything were absolutely ridiculous. Let's see what he can do against Volkanovski, because actually one thing that struck me in that fight was that, wow, Yair looked big compared to Josh Emmett. He just looked like a much bigger fighter. Although Volkanovski's never struggled against guys that are taller and bigger than him. I don't. Volkanovski might be on another level. We will find out. We will find out. They're going to have to do that one fairly soon, I think. And yeah, obviously the main event just mentioned, Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev. What an incredible fight. What an incredible fight. I'm going to go into that in more detail right now, because the first question that came up from the main event, basically, of UFC 284. So, spoiler alert, the end result was that Islam Makhachev won a unanimous decision. I think it was 47-46 on 2 cards, and then 49-46. So, no, whatever it was. One of them was like 49-46. The other two were 48-47. Yeah, sorry. Anyway. Either way, the 49-46 was it wasn't that one-sided, or it might have been. To be fair, a lot of people have been saying that it was a robbery. But first of all, let me just go through the fight. I mean, it was one of the most fantastic main events that you'll see. It was just superb because it had the storyline behind it. The main consensus was that Islam Makhachev was supposed to steamroll this fella, you know, because Islam Makhachev is this unstoppable force who's been battering everybody in the lightweight division. He's now fighting a guy who's coming up a weight class to fight him in Volkanovski, who did look undersized against Makhachev, with the greatest of respect. And obviously we've not seen anybody really have any success against that Dagestan wrestling style. And Volkanovski not only had success, but he changed the way that Islam had to fight. He was so good. Volkanovski's style in there was just fantastic. He put on such a great fight, but it was still very close, because actually I think Volkanovski alluded to it at the end when he said, you know what, Islam Makhachev, he underestimated my grappling. He underestimated how good I am at grappling. But you know what? I may have underestimated how good he is at striking, because he certainly caught me a good few times. And it seemed like in the striking that Islam Makhachev, just from an aesthetic standpoint, was landing on Volkanovski quite a lot. I think it was at least even, if not slightly in favour of Makhachev. And that's just going on watching from a live perspective. Now, historically in the past, this is just to address the main debate of, was that fight a robbery? Because a lot of people, including Joe Rogan, Brendan Schaub and all that, because we saw that on their Fight Companion, they all thought Volkanovski had won, that it was a certainty, that he had won. And there may have been some bias to that, but for me, as I'm watching it, I've always said that in order to beat the champion, you can't just do as good as the champion, you have to beat the champion. The champion retains their belt on a draw anyway. You have to do better than the champion. So any rounds that are a complete coin toss, as in like they're so close you can't really call it, then that round needs to go to the champion. That's just the way I've always done it. And if I want to be consistent, then I'm going to have to say that as I was watching the fight, there were a couple of, there was only a couple of rounds really. Round 4 for Islam Makhachev was certainly his round, and round 5 for Volkanovski was certainly his round. The other rounds were all kind of up for debate, and because they were up for debate, there's a part of me that wants to say, look, if I want to remain consistent, I would have to say that you have to give those rounds to the champion. So it, of course, was the right decision. But you know what? Screw being consistent. I wanted Volkanovski to win. So yeah, he did get robbed. That judge's scorecard was an absolute travesty. The 49-46, what the hell were they thinking? And Volkanovski should be the double champion right now. Come at me, pussies. Huh? No, I'm just kidding. Realistically, I think it was the right decision. However, do I think that Islam Makhachev did enough to be called pound for pound number 1 in the world? Answer, no. No, I don't. I really don't. Because that fight was so razor close. And Volkanovski put a bit, you looked at their faces at the end and Makhachev looked like the beaten man. Volkanovski did not look like the beaten man, right? If Volkanovski had 1 or 2 more rounds like he did in round 5 that were just much more clear that he was the winner. Because the other rounds, yeah, he could have won them, but I'm just saying it wasn't clear who the winner was. Do you know what I mean? You could make a case for either guy. And people are posting the overall fight numbers at the end. It's like, look, that's all so weird though. That's a bit sketchy because a lot of those strikes he landed whilst he's kind of got Islam Makhachev on his back in round 4. Are you really telling me that you're giving him that round because he's getting those rabbit punches in, which are funny, but they're not effective, and Islam Makhachev is maintaining the dominant position? You can't do that, really. One thing I would say is that obviously you've got to look at what's the strikes per round. That's how the fights are judged. The fights are judged per round. So posting the overall strike numbers for the entire fight, it's not helpful, is it? How does that help? It doesn't help in deciding whether somebody was robbed or not. In any event, nobody was robbed. It was a close fight. It was a close fight. Nobody was robbed. Would I like to see it again? I would like to see it again. So, yes, nobody was robbed. It was a very close fight. Volkanovski, he surprised a lot of people. He didn't really surprise me. I kind of picked Volkanovski. I was Team Volkanovski. I didn't necessarily say that I thought he was going to win, but I wanted him to win, and I thought he was capable of doing it. So what I saw from him didn't really surprise me. It was an absolutely fantastic performance, and for me, Volkanovski does remain the pound for pound number 1, because it's not like Islam dominated him. He had a really hard time with him, and he was clearly quite a lot bigger, and that's what the whole meaning of pound for pound, isn't it? So for me, and that's 1 title defense for Makhachev as well. And what's that, 4 for Volkanovski now? Their resumes aren't comparable right now. When you look at the level of competition that Volkanovski has been fighting in that featherweight division, he's been fighting the absolute best consensus guys in featherweight, whereas Islam Makhachev, he's been fighting guys like Dan Hooker's, who is really good, but he's not the top echelon, is he? Bobby Green's. It's like, let's give Makhachev a few more title defenses against the best in that lightweight division before we start calling him the pound for pound number 1. And speaking of which, one of the best in that lightweight division is obviously Dustin Poirier. We all know that. And it's come out now that apparently that Islam Makhachev is going to be defending his title against Dustin Poirier next. My first thoughts on that is, what? No love for Beneil Dariush? Come on, man. What? Dariush has done so much in that division. Who does he need to suck off to get a title shot at this point? Come on, man. I would much rather see Beneil Dariush fight Islam Makhachev than Dustin Poirier. I just feel like, stylistically, Dariush is probably a much tougher test for Islam than Dustin is. Islam versus Dustin, I think it goes largely the same way as Khabib versus Dustin did. I just don't see that Dustin can emulate the style that Volkanovski showed that gives a problem to Islam Makhachev. I just don't see that happening. I think that Dustin goes in there, does what he always does, and unfortunately he's going to get taken to the ground and just dominated. But maybe not. Maybe, you know, we'll see Dustin pull something, because obviously Islam and Khabib are two separate fighters, so we'll see. Another fight that got announced: Conor McGregor will be returning against Michael Chandler. That is huge news. That is the fight that we've all wanted. Every MMA fan, like, we want to see Conor McGregor back. We do. Like, as much as maybe I don't like him, or he's entertaining, he's polarizing, but he's so good for the sport. And god damn it, will I watch him? Obviously, look, I don't want people to get into car wrecks, but will I watch one when it's happening? Yes. Yes, of course I will. Will I call for help? No. Will I record it on my phone? Probably yes. And that's the same as a Conor McGregor fight for me. It's a tragic car crash, but I want to see it. Man, what an opponent. Michael Chandler, that's a great opponent. Because, look, not being funny, this is one of the biggest fights they can probably make for Conor McGregor, because what a win over Michael Chandler doesn't matter how many losses Conor has, he's one win away from getting a title shot. We all know that. He may not even need to get a win to get a title shot. He's Conor freaking McGregor. Do you know what I mean? It's just, is it fair? No. No. Life's not fair. Why should the UFC be fair? That's all I'd say. But yeah, and the other reason it's a good fight to make is because it's a winnable matchup for both guys. It really is. Look, there's a good chance that Michael Chandler goes in there and flattens Conor, like grabs him, throws him, because he's a big physical guy. And Conor's power has not generally translated when he's gone up the weight classes. Great power at featherweight, less so at lightweight. And they will be competing at lightweight, not at 170. Dana White has already clarified that. But it's all, by the same token, it is also a winnable fight for Conor McGregor, because he does still carry power at lightweight. Because, you know, whilst he doesn't, he's that left hand, it's always a problem. And Michael Chandler is there to be hit. He's not like this elusive guy that never gets hit, is he? He could easily eat a four-piece combination from McGregor, and we could see him just go, oh, okay, that really hurt. And then all of a sudden he's on the floor just getting pounded out. That could very well happen. And that's why it's interesting. We like Jeopardy, guys. We enjoy Jeopardy. That's all we want. And hey, look, if they're coaching the Ultimate Fighter, that's an Ultimate Fighter series I would actually watch, which is more I can say for the last few. And also, the only other bit of Conor McGregor news, obviously, this is quite old news now, but he got hit off his bike when he was riding his bike. I wonder, when his bike was flying through the air, if he just went, "Me bike's a balloon." I hope that he did, but it was so funny. Go and watch that video, right? Because the poor guy that hit him, he looks so uncomfortable when he's just Instagram live him. He's like, "This guy hit me with my car. It was a sun trap. It's fine though." Do you know what I mean? He's like, yeah. He just looks hella uncomfortable. But as you would be, to be fair, he's probably just felt bad that he knocked someone off his bike. Any human being would, honestly. And my troll of the week this week, it's less of a troll and more of an homage to Alexander Volkanovski, who, as I said, I think just did himself proud against Islam Makhachev. He came up just short, but only just, because you can see the Volkanovski effect, right? You've got Moises, not a mark. Dober, not a mark. Oliveira, not a mark. Hangman, not a mark. Green, not a mark. Volkanovski, and you've got Islam looking pretty beaten up, shaken up, tired, exhausted, marks all over him, blood on his face. He's been through the ringer that is called Alexander Volkanovski. I would like to see that fight again, in all honesty, because it was just brilliant. And Volkanovski's only gone up, in my opinion. What an absolute class act of a guy as well. And so I'll be breaking down the fights that are on this weekend. And if you could do me a favour, hit subscribe. That'd be wonderful. Until next time, keep all those odds long and those bets terrible.